Hello and welcome to Empowering the Truth, whether you're in India, somewhere else in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Middle East, Central Asia. Good afternoon and good evening to you all. Empowering the Truth, this series is brought to you by the International Center for Journalists, or ICFJ, and that's in partnership with us at Boom Live. We are fact checkers based in South Asia, in India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. I'm HR Venkatesh, and I'm the Director of Training and Research here. And this is the fourth and final of our conversations today. We've had them all this March, and we have a double treat in store with Ritvvij Parrikh that you can see on your screen there. And we also have with us Karen Rebelo on the topic of AI and journalism and disinformation and deepfakes. So that's quite a bit that we've packed in, and I'll tell you why I'm excited in a moment. But as I said, this is part of Empowering the Truth. And so far, we've had 3 conversations. And today is the last of 4 conversations. And if you registered and attended either of, any of the last sessions, you'll remember that there is a chance to win a grant from ICFJ for your work. But in order to qualify for the grant, you have to have attended at least 3 out of 4 sessions, which means if you've been listening in today, then you would have had to attend the last 2 sessions at least. So starting on the 7th of March, we had alliances and networks, and we had reaching critical audiences on the 14th of March, how to build audience trust on the 21st, and today AI for journalists. We've had Rajneel Kamath, Sudipto Mandal, Meena Kotwal, Masato Kajimoto, and today we're just closing with these 2 speakers. Okay, so let's get into today's session. I'll introduce both, and then I'll call upon them one by one. We have Ritvvij Parrikh. He's a Senior Director of Product at the Times of India, and he's leading their personalization efforts. Previously, he was Journalism AI Fellow with LSE Polis and Knight Fellow with ICFJ. We also have with us today Karen Rebelo, who's the Deputy Editor here at Boom Live. Karen runs the newsroom, and which means she knows the ins and outs of the work we do better than anybody else. But Karen is also our leading expert on deepfakes and disinformation. Prior to Boom, she was with Reuters. Thank you so much, Karen and Ritvvij, for joining us. The way I imagine today's session is that, Ritvvij, you'll set up the whole AI and journalism thing for us, and then we'll go a little deeper into deepfakes and disinformation with Karen. And on that note, it's over to you, Ritvvij.
Thank you, Venkatesh. So over the last, I think, 3 years, I've been focusing a lot on application of AI in news. And a lot has been changing in this field, as everyone knows. So I've been focusing on how this entire space is going to impact the news industry over the next possibly 5 to 10 years. In this, if we look at it solely from the supply side, that is from the vantage point of the newsroom, there are broadly 4 newsroom functions. That is news gathering or reporting, news verification, news production, and news distribution. I'll start with identifying the things that we've missed over the last 10 to 15 years in AI, what is the change that we are going through right now, and what are the last vestiges of opportunity or assets that we can still build, which are applicable for news business. So if we start with news gathering, fundamentally over the last 10-15 years, most news breaks first on social media or on wires. And typically most news websites have got news that is downstream of what happens on social, on wires. And the reason behind this is that fundamentally social is an AI platform. It's been so for the last 15 years. All social media platforms, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, these are essentially big data AI platforms that connect people, that constantly identify which pieces of information have novel content, and then they ensure that the right content is served to the right user. Given this, social as a platform has democratized most news breaking and even access journalism to a large extent. Users do not need to rely on news publications to actually access people or celebrities anymore. fundamentally, what stopped news companies 10 years or 15 years ago to actually double down on user-generated content and not tap into this wave is a question that I think we should ask. Because missing this wave means that today we are actually less prepared as organizations to tap into AI. Next is news verification. This is one field where newsrooms still reign supreme. However, with crowdsource efforts like community notes, that is also an area where AI is increasingly available. The most obvious space where we've lost space is news curation and distribution. This we've lost space both to search and social. Now, fundamentally, again, search in its old form, that is what Google was historically, and social, both again are AI platforms. And here too, social and search work at scales. Like it's impossible to have an editor for India, YouTube, right? All of these are self-learning AI platforms that make those products work at scale. And despite all of the problems that big tech companies have gone through, whether it's echo chambers in YouTube or all the spam on Twitter, despite all of these, or even the Senate hearings, all of these companies have actually endured with these recommendation systems. Why? Because they work at scale. And again, the question back to us as news companies is, why haven't we invested in these technologies over the last 10, 15 years to actually provide better content to our users? Both personalization systems or these AI systems work simply because, I as a user can spend money on, let's say, buying a teapot or a car, and I will get the gratification by owning that object. Whereas if I have to spend money on any form of media, whether it's OTT or news, I need to spend time and cognitive effort to actually consume that content to get gratification. And this is one of the reasons why if you do not personalize your content, it is impossible to ensure that you are actually serving the needs of what customers want. Okay, next, news production. Actually, if we take a step backward, even if you look at the gratification of content, gratification from content, it is exactly this reason why most content online is going into short form content. YouTube, despite earning $31 billion, has doubled and tripled down on YouTube Shorts. Why? Because it works. It works because people are able to take a very small bite of content, get the gratification very quickly. It leads to a thumbs up in your brain, and then you go to the next piece of content. Compare it with, let's say, reading a long form article, which is really well written. It has a lot of information. It has taken a month to produce. What's the probability that how many users will actually read through it and get the gratification? So looking back, even before ChatGPT, I think we as news companies across the board globally have missed the bus on short form content and on recommender systems. Next, news production. This is a space that we are now losing space to generative AI. So let's look at different forms of articles that we produce today, and let's say a year or 2 years down the line, where it will be with generative AI. So over the last, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, there's been a lot of explainer journalism. There's been a lot of how-tos, a lot of Q&As, a lot of FAQs. Obviously, with ChatGPT, all of this is going to go for a toss. The reason for it is very straightforward, that the exact nuanced question that I have in my mind, it is unlikely that you would have produced an article exactly for that. And how do we know this? We know this already because all Q&A platforms on the internet are actually losing traffic. There's a chart out there where Stack Overflow, which is a Q&A platform for programmers, the graph is downward, and GitHub Copilot, which is a chatbot for programmers, is going up. Exactly as GitHub Copilot is going up, Stack Overflow is going down. There's a US company called as Chegg.inc, which is like a student's question answer over their coursework that lost a huge portion of its stock value. So any form of Q&A on or FAQs or explainer is slowly going to lose value. Next, opinions. This is something that we've lost in principle to social media long back, but I think this will get further accelerated. And let me explain. Today, a newspaper or a TV channel is likely to have access to 1, 2, or 3, or 4 experts at any given moment of time. Let's say for any issue, let's say inflation in India. But if you compare it with the quantity of experts on social media, it's going to be 1,000 experts. Now, before generative AI, it required you to actually stay on top of all of these Twitter profiles and listen to what they are saying to understand and build a nuanced opinion. It is likely that in the next year, 2 years, social media platforms themselves will build a digest of varied opinions on the same news topics from all the reputable experts in that field and give you a digest as part of your premium subscription. It is extremely straightforward to do, and it's likely to get democratized too. The next thing is subscriptions. For some reason, collectively, again, globally, news publications have come down to the conclusion that premiumness of content written is going to result in subscription-worthy content. But probably if you look at all of our subscriptions, we tend to subscribe to things that are comprehensive and not premium. Comprehensiveness is means that I have access to most things that I require most of the time, whereas premiumness is a very subjective criteria. So again, let's look at what is the definition of premiumness. You have features, special reports, profiles, New York Times like immersives. Again, if you go back to the original rule of gratification on media, the longer you write, the probability of people getting, all of your subscribers getting gratification from it is actually lower. And hence it is lower, that it's a lower probability that people will get value for money. And hence it is likely that you might face retention issues. Then what else is premiumness? You'll have star anchors or star columnists curating a topic, choosing which topic to write on, curating their take on it, and possibly speaking or articulating in a certain way, style of writing. Now, if we decipher each of these aspects, you can clearly see that curation is something that algorithms can already do. Like what would Ritvvij be interested in versus HR Venkatesh versus Karen? What topics to curate, which parts to curate would be completely different. Which arguments to curate for each one of these 3 people is also something that algorithms can do. And finally, we come down to style of writing. A style of writing or style of speaking is not a copyrightable aspect. It is a set of micro decisions that an editor or a person takes to produce information. Now, if you start interviewing the editor about why did they write in this way versus another way, it is likely that they might not have thought through it intuitively why they are choosing to write in a certain way. But given enough of these articles to machine learning, I've personally seen that it's able to pick up patterns and copy styles of writing too. Given that, like a star anchors production or a star column production is not necessarily something that is again defensible. Last night itself, a new AI platform got released. I'll ping the link out here. It's called hume.ai. This is the first time that there is a AI product out there that understands emotions within the human voice and is able to talk back with emotion. And so your voice is not going to, an AI voice is no more going to sound robotic in nature. It is going to understand when you speak to it, it's going to understand your anxiety, it's going to understand your emotions, and then articulate the ChatGPT type response, the LLM response appropriately. Okay. So what's left? Now, yes, the space is shrinking, but interestingly, most platforms will not be able to solve 2 specific problems. Actually, even before that, I would say that we should still bet long on news. There are two reasons for it. The first is the human need for news is never going to go away. It is an eternal human need, and that's going to stay. The second is the human need or the economic need for advertising is also not going to go away ever. And hence, both of these jobs in the economy are going to be around. The question essentially is, will we be serving it? And for that, at least there are two directions that I think are interesting. The first is, I think, as editorial companies, I think we should double down and triple down on news gathering and news verification. The fact that an event happened in the real world is something that AI cannot capture today. And it is unlikely to capture for a long period of time. It needs to be captured, digitized, and then sent off to the internet or to AI algorithms for it to be processed. The deeper your news gathering functions, the better you are. News verification. The one moat or the one protection that we've had against all of these big tech platforms is that most of our content on news platforms are verified by human editors. Verified news is a marker for trust. It's a marker for safety. It's a marker for premiumness. And any investments you can do to double down on it is a good sign. However, it's likely that we will have to seed massive space. We've already seeded space in distribution, that is, which stories users will end up reading, but likely we'll end up seeding a lot of space in news production also. And hence, so what is the asset that you retain at the end? Today, if you look at news stories, we still continue the historical pattern of writing a story as a snapshot of truth today. The problem with that is all of those snapshots are sitting on our internet website, and it becomes problematic for the user. Let's say if I want to follow everything with, let's say, the farmers' protest, I'll end up getting, I don't know, 1,000 articles. It's impossible for me to actually, as a human, to have a complete digest of what has happened. And hence, if we take an analogy, let's look at Google Sheets for a moment. A Google Sheet has got two components. You have the information, that is the CSV file, which is the columns and the rows, etc. And it has formatting, which is the colors and the merged cells and the percentage sign and all of those things. Right? Similarly, most news collected, I think we should split in two parts. One is the style of writing, the tone, the take, all of those things. And the second is the core information collected. The moment we maintain snapshots of truth, everything related to the farmers' protest that we know right now, think of it as a Wikipedia article on everything that you know that's maintained, that becomes a source of truth of that particular topic. And then next time you have a new piece of information, that source of truth updates. And it's likely that this Wikipedia-like article is essentially a mixture of news gathering and news verification. And then on top of it, all of these algorithms can thrive to serve user needs. Again, this is what we should do in terms of holding our asset. What else? All the things that we see in terms of adoption of AI, whether it's using ChatGPT to write better or using Midjourney to create photos, all of this is going to get democratized very fast. There is very little competitive advantage in using it, but it is going to be a necessity to use it. So expect that you have to use it, you have to learn it, but it's not going to give you major differentiation in your ability to serve your user better, because everyone else will also be doing it. And the last thing is, expect our software stack within newsrooms to change, or we'll end up with what will be called as agents. Agents are these micro bots that are going to work on your behalf, which means, let's say, if you want to transcribe, you will have an agent that transcribes. If you want to, I don't know, read through all articles across wire copies and various sources and merge that and create into a digest, you will have an agent for that. So expect future newsrooms and organizations to have an army of agents doing specialized jobs that actually ease your life. I think, Venkatesh, this is it. Of course, we'll go deeper into each of these aspects based on the questions.
Okay, that was tremendous, Ritvvij. I feel like calling up my therapist and saying, let's have an appointment where we discuss the future of news and the future of my career as well. Okay, so that jokes apart, that was very, very useful. I like the way you broke down news into those four parts of what news gathering, verification, production, and distribution, and how you showed that the world is changing in all four areas. I mean, there is a tendency to feel that as fact checkers, we're in the news verification business, and we're still needed. You know what I mean? To an extent, in the way we looked at the kind of job we're doing right now. But I must also say that what you said has made me feel excited and hopeful that there's lots to learn. And it's a bit like how cricket moved from tests and ODIs to T20 mode. So maybe there is something in that analogy. There are participants here. I have no way of knowing at this point in time whether they're mostly students or mostly journalists or mostly fact checkers or where they are around the world, so on and so forth. So your comments would have served as a very good generic introduction. Remember, Ritvvij is available for questions and answers. So please start writing in your questions. Remember, there is no such thing as a bad question or a stupid question. And so I will gather all questions once Karen has finished speaking. And let's just hand it over now to Karen. Karen, all yours.
Thanks, Venkatesh, and thank you, Ritvvij, and everyone else also who's joined in on the call. And I agree that was kind of depressing, and but there were a lot of useful insights as well. I don't have anything planned, and I was hoping Venkatesh could probably throw some questions at me, because the reason I don't have anything planned is because this space is changing so fast, and even the things that I thought of like 3 months ago, 6 months ago, don't hold true anymore. So yeah, Venkatesh, do you have any
Absolutely.
questions?
First I would
Sorry.
like you, okay,
Sure.
to the extent possible,
Sure.
without any filters, I would like you to react to what Ritvvij said.
I think he made some very interesting points, and I agree with some of a lot of the things he said, that as an industry we have not invested, whether it's either developing our technology or training our people. This is something that most people, I think, in India would be aware of, unless you work with one of the wires where they sort of block off your calendar and have those days of training. I haven't seen it in any other newsroom that I worked at. So on that front, he's right, and I don't think AI will replace journalists entirely. In fact, we should actively resist that idea entirely, because we cannot leave it up to just technologists. To sort of shepherd the news and be in charge of this industry. What we do is extremely important. It's extremely important for our democracies and all of that. And I completely believe. First of all, I'm not a deepfake expert. Venkatesh introduced me as one, but I find myself in the unfortunate position of having to deal with all the madness and the chaos that comes with sort of being in the line of fire and being in the trenches, working with a lot of this imagery. So I was reading an essay which said, journalists are no longer the gatekeepers of information, platforms are. That's absolutely correct, whether they've chosen to be or not. And many times you hear them say that we don't want to be arbiters of truth. And I've said this often, please believe them when they say that. Don't take that responsibility off the hand, because what we're doing is so important. And I think just to add on what Ritvvij said, apart from all the different processes that AI can be useful news and fact checking, I think my hope is that a new type of newsroom emerges where people try to question these algorithms and ask questions, because this technology is so significant. It's already affecting our lives in ways we don't think about. It's not just whether you see a deep fake or not. A lot of things, like even whether your resume gets selected, whether you get a loan, for people of lower income strata, whether their faces are recognized by facial recognition technology. So to understand, I hope that there is a new type of newsroom that emerges, that I feel like, and partly maybe people like me are also responsible. I feel like deepfakes hog too much of the attention. There are bigger questions that this problem brings to the fore, and that some of the technologies that I mentioned, they don't get enough news coverage. We don't hear, apart from the occasional report, about how these things are affecting people, rather than just reporting, oh, somebody's face was morphed, or this is a deep fake video of somebody, or this is an audio clone. So I'll end on that note. Venkatesh, do you want to step in and sort of ask me anything with regards to what I said?
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, of course. When I refer to you as an expert on deepfakes, I didn't mean you are an expert in creating deepfakes, but I meant that you're an expert in thinking about deepfakes and how to, debunk them and gathering what information we have about them. And of course, so there's deepfakes that is super narrow focused for this conversation at one end. At the other end, there's AI in journalism, and there's a lot to explore in between. So I'll probably stay in that in between stage, and I'll probably bring in Ritvvij as well. But Karen, tell us a little bit about, for the benefit of people who are logging in, what is, I mean, it's kind of a very generic question, but when you talk about AI and disinformation specifically, I mean, if AI is used to generate information, then it's obviously being used to generate disinformation, right? But from a practitioner's perspective, where are we currently in March 2024? Let's say, as opposed to 5 years ago, March 2024, 2019. Would you be able to answer?
Yes. So I would say currently we are in AI, in deepfake hell. And I'll tell you why I have such like a bleak sort of observation, because interestingly, I entered the fact checking space in around early 2017, and I remember from the time I sort of entered this industry, I've been hearing of deepfakes. So in 2017 itself, we knew that something like deepfakes existed. It was mainly in the pornography industry. That's where, in the US, that's sort of its origin story. And even at that point of time in 2017 itself, there were activists, there were researchers, there were academics warning that this thing is going to come. So not only have we not paid heed to anything that they've said, uh, we've in fact we have reached a point today where we sort of democratized and we made it almost like deepfakes for dummies, which is that if you have a laptop and if you have an internet connection, then you can make any type of deepfake that you want. And how do I know this? Because I made some voice clones myself. I have no coding experience. All I did was follow the instructions on the website, and that's where we are today. So what has happened over the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months is that there was this explosion in the developments happening in generative AI, which is one type of AI. And that sort of AI lends itself, it's almost like clay. It's very easy and malleable to make different things with it, which is why what you're seeing right now is just an explosion. And so in 2023, we had that very notable example from India, where the women wrestlers who were protesting against sexual harassment by the wrestling federation chief, they went they were at a protest, and then they were detained by the police and put in a police van, and they took a photo of themselves, and that photo was manipulated using an AI editing app called Face App. That was the most I would say high profile notable example. In the 6 months that followed, the amount of synthetic imagery that we saw as compared to the first half of 2023 just exploded. And that's primarily because whatever was happening with large language models, and these tools were just getting better and better, and everybody was coming out with all of that. So at the start of the year, we are seeing it's almost like anyone can make it. You don't need any sort of technical expertise at all to create this kind of synthetic content. But I think the bigger sort of story with deepfakes is what it is doing to fundamental concepts like photographic truth, our shared concept of reality. And you have a very well-known example of whatever has happened with Kate Middleton over the last 2 weeks, where even a real video, because that video has been forensically examined, even a real video of her coming and saying she has cancer, because it is a little post-produced and they've sort of done that thing. Now you have a scenario where you just make it possible for anyone to say, oh, this is AI, listen to her voice, look at her face, this is how she looked, she's actually dead, she needs to, the palace needs to produce proof of life. All of this crazy talk is happening. And to sort of compound all of that, this is sort of there is the platforms have completely imploded. Something like a Twitter, which is now an X, because of tweaks that it did to its infrastructure, in the sense that it allowed anyone to buy a blue tick verification. It got rid of its trust and safety teams entirely. Platforms are imploding. So Twitter, which was once it was always crazy, but it was still useful to journalists and other researchers, has become like 4chan. It's become a conspiracy hub. I'm sure all the fact checkers on this panel right now use it to find false and misleading claims to debunk, rather than what they used to use it. And I'm not like a young millennial or something. I remember Twitter from 2008 2009 during Arab Spring days. So I have that sort of comparison to make, when it was actually a useful platform where people were getting information about protests and stuff like that. You could find eyewitnesses in case of like a news break event. But right now it's just crazy town. Like if I log in, for every 10 tweets I can find two which completely sound unhinged. So all of these things have like sort of collided together, and we just, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make my job any easier, for sure.
Great. I mean, the term that I heard recently was that, it's a phrase. It says the default is distrust. So it is distrust. So the default is distrust going forward, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
for many of us fact checkers or journalists or people who work in media literacy, for example, where we think a lot about critical literacy. Anyway, our default has been distrust, but now going forward, I think the default is really distrust for anyone around the world. Because now, along with many clips that everyone is subject to, we're also subject to people saying, hey, that is morphed, or, this is a deep fake, or that is a voice clone, and so on and so forth. So we're training, just like we're training AI through data sets, we're also training people to not trust anything. So I don't know what's going to
Yeah,
happen.
it's very disorienting. I agree. It's absolutely that anybody can sort of pick a hole in anything that's posted, and potentially sow this sort of doubt in people's mind and say, you cannot trust this. and this has like huge implications for news, but also like things like law enforcement and all, because to what extent will you keep proving, who will you trust, and when everything can potentially be manipulated, then how do you sort of like stand out and say, no, listen, you can trust this?
Okay.
So yeah, let's see.
Okay, so more, we're all using D words, right? Default, distrust, deep fake, disinformation. Let's do some doom, depression, all of that stuff. Let's also get some delight going. So what I mean by that is, there's a bunch of people who have asked questions already. So let me just move to the Q&A aspect. And this is both for you and Ritvvij, and I'll take questions as and when they come in, and I'll weave in some of my own questions. And Karen, if you have any questions for Ritvvij, you should go for it. Same for Ritvvij. If you have any questions for Karen, go for it without needing any intervention from me. Okay, so let me start off. Okay, so we painted a picture that shows that, yes, things have changed really fast. And because, Karen, you're on the front lines, and Ritvvij, you're also on the front lines, you can see the change coming faster than anyone else. How can we equip ourselves, both as fact checkers and journalists and researchers and general people who want to get into the content industry, maybe? I'm going to ask some of these questions. And I'll start with Erkin Kamalov's question. I'm going to put that to Ritvvij. What skills should media folks develop in order not to be replaced? Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Ritvvij, and I'm going to ask you, Karen, to respond to that as well.
So the best editors and the, am I audible? Yeah. The best editors and the best journalists that I've met are not only able to produce what they do, but also able to introspect and articulate well, why did they take that editorial decision? And this is a piece of information that is extremely valuable. So like in edit meetings, when a team decides to pick up certain stories, or let's say if they rewrite a story in a specific way, or if they choose to put a story in the homepage but not put it out, each of these have got very fine line decisions that if you do not articulate well for yourself, you will not end up participating with the AI teams such that the algorithms become better. So that cognition of why that decision is being taken is very critical. That makes you a partner in actually helping make algorithms better instead of sitting not participating in that process.
So in other words, you're saying you must know why you do what you do.
Yes, and if you can record it, even better.
Which is actually an existential question, right? I mean, generally speaking, self-knowledge and all that. But yeah, that's good. That's a good starting point. Why you must know why you do what you do as a journalist. You must be able to explain it very well as well. But are you saying this?
Sorry. So why did you pick up a story? What was the reason to pick up the story? Why did you take this take? Why did you go with these quotes and not the other quotes? So many of these decisions get dropped as the story develops, right? That is it. At the end of the day, the only data that algorithms have is essentially clickstream information that people are clicking on this or not. That is not valuable to build a great nuanced algorithm. So recording of editorial nuance is actually advantage that future editors will have, or great editors have.
Okay, so are you saying then that if as an editor, one knows why one is making such decisions, that'll be good for the career, or are you saying it's good for the AI training model, or both?
It's great for the career simply because AI is not going to go away. Search never went away. Social never went away, right?
Okay.
All of this is right here. It's a question of what additional value we as journalists bring to the table to participate more deeply into the process.
Okay. Karen, do you have any thoughts to add as to what skills one needs as a journalist?
I just would say learning. I mean, you are learning all throughout your life, and this this technology offers like such a steep learning curve. That doesn't mean like I'm asking you to go and get a computer science degree, but just everything, all the things that help you better understand how this technology works, who are the big sort of players in this, and how it really impacts ordinary people. That will take you a long way. One of the reasons why I sort of enjoy fact checking is because it always had like a technical component to it. So you always had to keep learning either about the platforms that you were fact checking misinformation, or you were learning new tools. Even now there are so many webinars, and even the best part is that I'm sometimes I reach out to these experts who have computer science labs and who are studying deepfakes and who help us with verification, and they often say they don't know, and I'm amazed because they have doctorates, they have PhDs, they're doing this day in and day out. So just there should be no shame at all in saying we don't know, because that is like the first step towards it. So please uh, grab those opportunities to learn, whether if it is going back to a formal classroom, then do it. So I think Singapore has come out with a policy where it gives loans to people above 40 if they want to go back and study something AI related, and I think that's amazing because you are looking out for your people. And first of all, I don't believe all AI is hype and snake oil. I think it's we are living in like really unprecedented times, and this technology is so significant. So yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
your mic is you're muted. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So I have 3 points with me, which I'm going to, 1 point from Ritvvij and 2 from you, Karen, which I'm going to repeat towards the end of this conversation. So sort of checklist, AI checklist, so to speak, to get started. I have a question for you, Ritvvij, before I go to any other question, which is, today through Chat GPT, one can get code. We can ask it to give us code, and then we can deploy that code. But so what would you say? Is there value for a journalist in learning how to code today?
Not much. I've always maintained this, that you should know how programmers think, but there's not much value in learning how to code, because it's a very specialized field. Like I, as somebody who works in a newsroom, I want to understand how journalists think, what is the skepticism that they bring to the table, why are they taking decisions in certain way, but I don't want to become a journalist. Similarly, I think learning to code is not as important as thinking like a coder.
Okay, but in order to know how programmers think, should one know code at all, or should just one be able to? What is the bare minimum they should know?
So there'll be very fairly simple tools or courses out there that'll teach you to think in a structured fashion. And that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so think in a structured fashion is essentially break down a project into multiple little steps,
Yeah.
and go sequentially step by step. Right. Okay. So that's great. Let's just see what questions are coming in. So there's a question from Venu has asked a couple of questions, but I'll come to her towards the end. Anonymous attendee asked, Google has recently penalized websites for AI content. What's your take on it? I'm assuming this refers to websites, penalized by downranking them. I don't know. But Ritvvij, I'll give that to you. Google has recently penalized websites for AI content. What's your take?
Right. So even Medium started with the policy that they allow using AI to, you can use AI to publish articles on Medium, and then they banned it. So understand that this is a constant, like how SEO has been a nightmare for news industry, where constantly algorithms keep changing and you are reacting to it. Or social has been a nightmare where the algorithms keep changing. This whole aspect of whether AI can be used, cannot be used, should be used, these are things that are going to be extremely fluid for the next 10 years. There is no definitive answer to it. And just everything that we went through in the uncertainty with SEO is what is going to happen out here. Yeah, so it will be down ranked because it is not valuable content. And I think Google in its last update also said that what matters is value that content brings to the table. So even if you use AI and it is not, if it's very useful for the users, then I think it will not get downgraded.
Understood. Right. So, Karen, there's a question from Venu. Can you talk about some of the tools you're using today for fact checking that are serving you well? And just to give you some context, Karen, I think Venu comes from an educator background.
Sure. So tools in general or AI specific tools or?
I'd say you start with some of the tools you're using today for fact checking.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so all fact checkers, we start off with something called as a reverse image search. It's a basic, it's not a tool, it's a feature which search engine has, and anyone can do it. And it's like the ABCs of fact checking, where you upload a picture and you search for it on a search engine rather than doing a text search. So if you have a picture, you just upload that to go to images.google.com. Any search engine which has like a camera icon on it, it means it has a reverse image search, which means the search engine, rather than searching for like say a red car. If you have a photo of a red car, you can upload it and search. So that is one thing. We use other tools like Invid. Invid is for videos. It's an extension. You can download it and add it to your browser. I can drop a link of fact checking tools. There are some amazing courses that also have been developed by different news agencies which has these tools and go about them in a structured way. Google Maps is something that we use. Basic, Boolean search or knowing how to search, that is also extremely useful. But I've always said this, that I love the tools, and I think most fact checkers do. But what we do, fact checking is not about tools. I think it is about persistence and finding a sort of workaround when you're stuck. Because the tools will come and go. Today there's something that's working. Tomorrow, it will not work, or the person maintaining it and stuff will just decide it's not worth keeping. So it's the sort of approach to what we do. But specifically, if you're asking, I can look it up and drop drop a link in this chat to help you go about it.
Okay. Thanks for that. I would like both of you to kind of read through Habib Rahman's question and think about it while I actually, Umar Bacha has asked, which tools do you suggest for debunking AI generated content? So Karen, I'll give that to you again.
Yeah. Before I name the tools, there's a big disclaimer that goes with all these tools, is that they are extremely unreliable. They get stuff wrong all the time. They can be easily fooled. So I know I'm not inspiring much confidence saying all of this, but this is the current state of detection. So for images, I think we use Hive moderation. It's free to use. I think there's a link of journalist toolbox somewhere in this chat that has all the AI based tools. For audio, we use something known as called as locus.ai. It checks the audio files and it can determine whether it's AI generated or not. And then for video, there are different tools, but the point is that you have to sort of realize that these tools are extremely unreliable. You can't base your entire story or findings on it. So if you have an expert that you have access to, it always helps to sort of reach out to them and ask them to examine if they can. Locus AI is a paid tool. and I think a lot of people watching and a lot of journalists also have this query, and fact checkers as well, that why aren't these tools freely available? There is a reason why they are not freely available, which is that if they are freely available, then the people who are making synthetic content just update their techniques and their technology and learn how to beat the detection system. So it makes sense to sort of have a subscription based control over who has access, and give access only to the fact checkers, the newsrooms, the researchers who need it more than I would say the average person does.
Yeah, so I hope you got those tools. Ritvvij, Venu has asked another question. What would you advise journalism schools to do to prepare students entering the newsroom?
Go deeper into gathering and verification. These are the areas where I think news companies will differentiate. On the other spectrum, I think becoming very uh, uh, agile, program managers or people who can actually use all of these tools, learn very quickly, and ship things out. So it's not about doing things yourself, it's about using things like ChatGPT to actually get them to get these agents to do work faster. But it's a very fluid skill. It's in the sense that it requires, in programming, we have two things. We have software programs which are called scripting, and we have software programs which are traditionally called engineering. Engineering programs are very solid, they are large, they are fairly complex. Whereas scripters on the other side write very fast code that solve tiny problems. So the equivalent of scripting in journalism, where they can use AI tools to get things done quickly, is going to be a very helpful skill in the future.
Okay, using AI tools to get things done. Right, Habib says they missed some part of the session. Karen, I think you'll need to mute yourself because the keyboard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No worries. So Habib says they missed a part of the session due to network issues. I don't know what has been discussed. Along with debunking AI contents as part of fact-checking your journalistic practices, how can we go beyond in educating common people in recognizing AI-generated content? Okay, how media literacy initiatives can play a role in it, and would the digital divide and digital literacy be a challenge in this process? Fantastic question. So anyone wants to answer that question?
I think I've spoken enough, Gitesh. I think you are best placed because media literacy is so close to our heart. So
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this question. I'm just reading it. But yeah, okay, I'll come back to it. Okay. So anonymous attendee asks, what product leaders in the low mid-sized media industry immediately adopt? What should they to keep up the technical advancements? What should product leaders in the low mid-sized media industry immediately adopt? That's a good question. Product mindset, I suppose. But Ritvvij, I'll let you kind of.
Before you pick up anything, I think get your it's a very vague word, but get your strategy right. What places you want to play and where you don't want to play, because AI will change so fast that if you do not know where you want to participate, you'll end up like, one of my criticisms of the news industry in general is we have a graveyard of innovations that have never been scaled up. Like in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, Venkatesh, you would have seen so many of these. Oh, this is interesting idea. This is an interesting idea. None of them have become mainstay in news and journalism with meaningful impact. Right. Similarly, AI is going to move so fast that if you do not know which are the 2-3 things that you really want to specialize on, you will keep trying like 5, 50 things and will not add up to anything. So identify what's absolutely critical for your newsroom, and then keep switching through tools to actually become better at that.
Okay. Karen, is there any online course? Does it exist for using AI-based tools for fact checking?
I'm not sure of a course, but I have included links in this chat, which is an excellent, there's one excellent video by Benjamin Strick, who runs his own OSINT YouTube channel about how to identify AI images and what to look for in terms of the anomalies in it. It's extremely detailed and excellent. And then I've dropped in another link which has tools to other AI resources, whether it's creating video or productivity, writing, all of those things. It's called Journalist Toolbox AI. So I think those links should be there as well.
Yeah, I think I'm also looking for a link. I think there's something called the Knight Center for the Americas. It has a course called Generative AI for Journalists.
Yeah.
This is what
So
data can do.
I did that course, and it's
Was it useful?
yeah, it was useful because it gives you an example of how different newsrooms in the world are using AI. So if you're asking that question that suppose you don't have, or you think you don't have anything AI right now in your newsroom, how do you go about thinking about it? So one thing is that you can go and look at websites like Polis Project, which Ritvvij was also part of how one AI is being used within storytelling. The generative part of AI part of it is a little separate, but normal machine learning has been used already in a lot of investigative stories, where they've sort of used this analytic power of AI to sort through big data and then ask questions from those data. So a lot of stories have been done that way. There's another story that I remember, which trained the model on images of mining a particular rare resource, and then it sort of did a matching through satellite imagery, and it found sort of unauthorized deposits of mining that were happened in a particular region as well. I think it's on the Polis Project's website, but just otherwise you can also see that a lot of the big newsrooms, FT, BBC, I think AP also, they are all coming out with sort of documents or sort of style guides saying that this is how we are thinking about AI. These are the concerns we have. We will use it in a limited use case, where they take all their stories and maybe make a chat bot. Even that is like dangerous, because what if the chat bot starts making up nonsense? Then it's your credibility at stake. So if you are thinking of how to go about where to start, I would suggest see what the newsrooms who have already either released a statement, read that up and see how they're thinking about it, so you know where you can bring it and how you can use it in your own newsroom as well.
Okay, that's useful. Ritvvij, and I think we'll stop taking questions now. We want to wrap up soon. Jatin says that course is over. Not sure if you can access it. I'm assuming the Journalism AI Startup Pack can be downloaded from the issue website. Jatin, can you just give us info as to which course you're talking about? Because we spoke about several courses.
I think the night one.
Is that the night one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, fine. Right. So to what extent do you believe, Ritvvij, prompt engineering will prove beneficial in journalism? If you could also recommend some courses that would be beneficial.
I think prompt engineering is a must-have skill in journalism. It is an easier way, and it's an easier interface to using AI. It's a no-brainer. Everyone should use it. But I think instead of calling it prompt engineering, it's just better writing. If you can articulate what you need more precisely and more in lesser words, I think AI will pick it up. You don't need. It's not a specific science. It is just you write and you get an output. it's also an experienced learning. So the more you write and the more outputs you see, you're going to realize what works for you and what doesn't work for you. In terms of courses, I think there are lots of these small courses on Udemy. You can pick some of those and try it out.
Okay. One thing I would say from my own attempts at working with generative AI is that anything it spits out as a journalist, you should not believe any facts it gives out, any references to papers it gives out. Just don't believe it, okay? Because it can make up stuff. So if it is giving you some fact, or if it's giving you some reference to some paper, academic paper, look for that paper, look for that fact outside, maybe online itself, right? But not through ChatGPT or any other generative AI. That's one thing I've noticed. And the other thing is, so if you can't trust it for any facts or any links or whatever, what can you trust it for? You can trust it to help you think better, right? It works as a thinking aid, right? It can teach you critical thinking as well. It can teach you many thinking skills that might be useful.
So
Okay.
don't ask, I mean, I just sorry, I'm just interjecting over there. So it's like, don't ask ChatGPT for a list of experts you can interview for your story, but instead ask it for the sort of questions you can ask your expert, which you have found yourself. Because ChatGPT will just like make up some expert who probably doesn't exist, or it's mixed up the colleges where this person has studied, or the degrees and stuff. So you have to be really careful with whatever output it spits out.
And just to add to this, I posted a 1.5-minute video on the chat. There is increasing emergent behavior that LLMs are not only parroting information from what they've picked up, but they also increasingly getting better at generalizing reasoning. So yes, Venkatesh, it will help you think better. Ask great questions and it'll reflect back and give you ideas. Now, the second part that you stated, that LLMs do not have good, precise information. This is where we go back to the original thing that I said, that if we can write like Google Sheets, where we have clear snapshots of the topics that we are covering till this moment of time, that can become a great input to your LLM. You use your own internal snapshots of history or topic, use it as input to the LLM, and then generate content using it instead of relying on the knowledge that LLMs have.
Okay. Right. So someone says, anonymous attendee says, Perplexity is a good option. I'm assuming that's a tool. So thanks for that. And then the last question, along with debunking AI contents as part of fact checking, how can you go beyond in educating common people in recognizing AI generated content? I mean, this is a media literacy thing. I've been thinking about this, but the true answer is, the best answer I can give is, media literacy is increasingly becoming more and more critical skill for everybody, right? Not just, it's the whole point of media literacy is that it's for everyone, from senior citizens up at the top one end all the way down to little children, right? So plug into as many courses on media literacy, digital literacy, critical thinking, independent thinking, scientific thinking, or the scientific method. Learn about cognitive biases. Learn about the impact of psychology on how that affects you when it comes to you choosing your beliefs, for example, and stuff like that. There's increasingly more and more literature on this. So for a person who wants to learn media literacy, there's no end of sources. Okay, for a person who wants to teach media literacy, unfortunately, there aren't that many areas. You can work with foundations that want to teach media literacy. You can apply for grants that'll teach media literacy. You can try to crack schools or governments. I mean, the best way to teach media literacy is to develop a relationship with a board, a state board, or a central board, and then start encouraging the use of media literacy curricula. You could do that with universities as well. And for a journalist, the easiest way to deploy media literacy is really to create content around media literacy. and it's a content that I call media literacy journalism. So in that, what you do is you not only report, but you also say, here's how I thought about. You've got to put yourself into it, or you've got to think about how anything can be interpreted or misinterpreted depending on a different perspective. Because everything in the end is contextual, right? Like you look at a photograph, you're going to supply the context yourself, and you've got to learn, you've got to teach people how they supplied that context. So I think the easiest way at this point in time is really to adopt the journalism model to spread media literacy thinking, as opposed to working with universities and schools, because that depends on multiple relationships and it takes time, or it takes more time. That's the best answer I have. Right. So we have now 7 rules that I have compiled based on the eternal wisdom of Ritvvij, Parrikh, and Karen Rebelo, and with a little bit of input from me. So I'm going to mention those 7 things that we've learned today together. I'm going to paste it here as well in a second. Just give me 1 second. So grab all opportunities to learn. Rule number 1. This is in no order of, it's just all together. So there's no such thing as the correct order. So grab all opportunities to learn. Learn to become an autodidact, in other words. That's number 1. Number 2, learn to say I don't know. So like just say, hey, the starting point is, let's say I don't know, so that then you can start knowing. I say this to a lot of journalists who, especially TV journalists and stuff, they don't know how to say I don't know. So it's just that's me slipping that in. And then be an editor or a journalist who's articulate about one's decision as a journalist, so that the more you know why you do what you do, the more you're an ally with AI tools. So it makes you useful in a newsroom. You should also know how programmers think. That's rule number 4. But there's not much point in learning how to code. So maybe you can just go to ChatGPT and say, this guy said I should learn how programmers must think, but I don't know what that means. Can you explain to me? Essentially, what Ritvvij said was learn to think, approach projects in a very structured way. So number 5, go deeper into gathering and verification. That's Ritvvij saying that's where the future lies. That's where you're not easily going to be replaced by AI, where you can demonstrate your usefulness. I'm not sure if there is a business model behind going deeper into gathering. There will be, I'm sure. Definitely, there is a business model behind verification. The number 6, prompt engineering is a must-have skill, but don't call it prompt engineering, because that makes it sound really complicated. It's essentially learning how to ask questions, framing the same question any different way, in multiple different ways. And number 7, don't rely on Gen AI for names and facts. It might make up stuff. Instead, use it as a thinking aid. So I think we have seven things we've learned today, which has been a very useful way to spend my evening today. I mean, I don't know about you all, but it's been great for me. So thank you so much on that note. And I have an important announcement. So folks, don't go away. Let's thank our speakers, and let's get to the announcement after that. So Karen Rebelo, thank you so much for doing what you do, and for bringing for speaking here. Ritvvij, Parrikh, same sentiment. It's great to have someone like you who's a thought leader as well in the AI and journalism space. And follow both Karen and Ritvvij. Please drop your preferred way of being followed. In other words, don't dox yourself, but please put your Twitter handle or X handle or LinkedIn handle or something, right? So please follow both Karen and Ritvvij. I promise you, they share some quality stuff. I know this because I follow them both. And finally, thank you all so much for joining us. It's been a very interesting hour. You'll find us at boomlive.in, and my colleagues Divya, Chandra, and Tita Ghosh, they've been here, and they've been adding stuff in the chat as well. And thank you to both of them. And finally, for the announcement, which is that this brings to an end the 4 webinars that we had that we did with the International Center for Journalists, or ICFJ. And if you've registered for this webinar or any of the webinars, your email is with them, and they are going to send you an email very shortly maybe as early as next week. Look out for it. There will be an announcement as to how you can apply for a grant. Last year, they gave grants to multiple organizations. We at Boom, we mentored 2 organizations who got those grants. And it's not a massive grant, but it's a pretty decent grant for you to get learning something or for you to produce something that will create a good prototype that you can use to produce something else. So please take that challenge seriously, and then you might find yourself having a grant that you can work with. On that note, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Do we need to wait?
I think we can clock off. Yeah.
Yay, thank you so much, Venkatesh.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Sorry, I felt like I did a lot of improv.
Improv is great. I love improv. So it's fine. It's good
But
for
you're
people.
so good at like handling all the stuff here.
No. I mean, okay, thanks. But it's good to improv is good because it gets people thinking as well. So
Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Tita. Sorry, I didn't realize my mic was on. I was typing away, and my WhatsApp web also. The tab was not muted, but yeah. Thanks, guys.
it's fine.
I'm leaving now.
That's like an
Thank
insight into
you.
how a fact checker works. They type really loud. Tuck. So,
Thanks, Divya. Ciao. Bye.
thanks, folks. 16 people still left, but yeah, slowly you're leaving. I know one by one you'll leave.